God. Articles of clothing for lachasot, basar, to cover their flesh. Underwear. Okay? So here's the question.
The Jews invented something else.
Yeah, except it doesn't work at the wrong time. Underwear was not created yet. So this is where even Ezra starts to question what he calls historical inaccuracies in the text. Now, he's not the first, but he's the first prominent one to start questioning. And then he gives the standard answer to the first thing I just told you. God has a reason for it. Let's see if we can figure out the reason. The one who didn't give that standard response, of course, is the famous Baruch Spinoza. Baruch Spinoza is 16th century Amsterdam. So much so, he was excommunicated from the Jewish community. He was the only Jew ever excommunicated in the Jewish community. There have been calls in the last several years, centuries, to re-admit him, but only those who excommunicated him can re-admit him. Well, they're all in the Olam Haba, the world to come, so they have a bed-in up there, we're assuming up there, and so they'll take care of it. But he, again, the questioning now, that some things in the text just don't add up. Okay? Did they have breeches? They had robes. Were they had anything underneath? No. That's why there's a whole thing in Leviticus about setting up outhouses. Well, not outhouses, but setting up pits outside the camp so everybody can go relieve themselves. No one had to lift up anything. I mean, they just went. What it was. Okay? But you have to look. Again, we can go our discomfort based on modern sensitivities, but that's not what an issue then. So we have the Word of God, and then we have now questioning how much is the Word of God versus human influence. And the third then, of course, it goes into what I told you about last time, Julius Bellhausen, the four sources. The J-E-P-D. I remind you again, it's all in that pamphlet, by the way, okay? J is Yahweh, Yud He Vav He, from Jehovah, from the German. E is Elohim. P is priestly. And D is Deuteronomy. And then, as it also spoke about there, it's called the redactor. Again, the redactor is not redacting, but the redactor puts all the narration so it fits. It's not an individual. It could be a school. It could be a group. We have no idea. We don't know who these people are. And by the way, it is a theory. And therefore, they're going to show you strands of text to validate the theory. It works for me. It makes sense. Because some places you only have Elohim, other places you only have Yud He Vav He. So it starts to make you have to wonder why. And I can tell you, Yud He Vav He is northern, Elohim is southern, meaning kingdoms. We know that for a fact. Which is why Baal worship was much more prevalent in the north. Because Yud He Vav He is singular. Yud He Vav He is singular. Therefore, other people have other expressions. A Baal with the bovine god. South, Elohim, is already plural in itself. It can be translated as capital G-O-D or it can be translated as little o G-O-D-S. And so it was a much more inclusive term. And we see that variation in the text. All right. So we looked at the source itself. We looked at the very base of starting of where it comes as authority. Oh, I'm sorry. And obviously source criticism implies human writing. We have no pretense that God said to Moses, take a memo. Okay? That is not existing in form criticism whatsoever. You can't write a book when you're not alive. That's the book of Genesis. And you can't write the last two chapters of Exodus of Deuteronomy when you're dying and dead. It just doesn't work that way. Okay? Unless you got to write and go, oh, wow, nice ending. And then I get to go. So who knows? Okay? Who knows? All right. So now we're going to look at biblical narrative as a whole. So we have word play. Every name in the Torah and every place in the Torah has a meaning. Every one of them. So, you know that synagogues are franchises. And I'm being very, very facetious. There's the Shalom franchise. There's the Bethel franchise. There's the Emmanuel franchise. You can pretty much find all these in every major city around the world. Shalom is usually a break-off from the Emmanuel or Bethels. I mean, all this stuff. There is no such thing as a free synagogue. Everybody still have to pay, even though it's called a free synagogue. There's Stephen Wise Free Synagogue in Manhattan. Temple Emmett Free Synagogue in Evanston, Illinois. Because they were free on the pulpit. The rabbi could say what he or she wanted. Just a sidebar. There's a whole discussion now. Does freedom of the pulpit include the rabbi's social media? Fascinating discussion. Anyway, I digress.
Modernization.
It's a very fascinating conversation. As I shared with the Torah study class yesterday, of a rabbi who is a die-hard Trump supporter, which is really interesting. Very interesting. And then today he got, I don't want to go to today's list. Anyway, I digress. Oh, right. So the name Bethel did not just cop out somewhere going, let's call this Beit El, the house of God. I'm sorry, you need me to stand still?
Do whatever you want.
Anyway, the point is that Beit El, house of God, comes directly from the Jacob story of him having a dream of angels going up and coming down. And the reality is, I said it backwards. It's actually angels coming down and going back up. Oh, no, I said it right. Angels going up and coming down. I said it right. Because that would make the story odd. Because you would think it was the other way around. You think angels coming down and going back up. It's the complete opposite. And that's because there's always angels or messengers of God among us. And he knows this place is holy, so he calls it Beit El. He calls it the house of God or the entrance to God. And so the Hebrew to English transliteration of what I call the King James transliteration, there is no Beth. There is no TH in Hebrew. So when we say Beth El, we're actually not correct. It should be Beit El. And is it Temple Shalom or Temple Shalom? Depending on that community, how they say. We are Temple Shalom. Temple Shalom of Scotch Plain, thank you. My colleague and dear friend Joel Abraham, who I'll see tonight. His cantor is Darcy Charline, Darcy Shapiro, who grew up here. So we're the same franchise. We joke about it, but that's the point. So it has a name. And of course, Jacob, Yaakov, he is called a heel. It's a wordplay. Because he's called a heel, Yaakov, Akev, because that's what he's holding on to, of the red hairy one, Esau. He's Esau. So wordplay is prevalent throughout the entire Torah. So much so, you remember that cruise director that we're going to read about next week called Noah?
Yes.
All right, he's in a big ark. Hebrew is Teva. And then in the beginning of Exodus, we're going to put another little boy into his own little cruise. Moses, into his wicket basket. Oh wait, he's also called a Teva. So it's a wordplay. It's not an ark and an ark, it's a boat, or it's a water trusty vessel. But it's translated as ark.
Big pharmaceutical company in Israel.
Teva. Right. It means you are protected, you are safe.
Yeah, I was going to just say
Nature Shack with Teva.
To nature and Teva.
Right, and Teva at camp. Teva at camp is to go out into nature. It's a play on the words.
Well, you have the shoes, Teva.
Teva shoes. So again, you're seeing, now the other word, I want to say it correctly, is called lightwork. Leitwrt is in your text. I believe it's the German phrase for it, where it's similarity of words and names and so forth. In English, we would call that homonyms. Here and here. Are you talking about here or are you talking about listening? Okay? But again, how words can be played and twisted. That is very, very common in our tradition, especially in Midrash and Mishnah, where you want to learn a lesson and you want to see a possibility. So, for example, what do you call that device to go up into a roof? It's called a sulam, a ladder. Jacob has the dream of the sulam. But that sulam is with a samech. If I say salam, as in shalom, or peace in Arabic, so a ladder can be the bridge to get you to the next place. In other words, again, playing on the wordplay. But that salam is with a sin, not a samech. But the sounds are there, and that's light work. When you take words that sound alike, but clearly are not the same word. Okay? So that's one way of looking at biblical narrative. When you see a name or a place, you want to understand why. Why is it what it is? Abram means father of nations. Sarai means queen. You have the father of nations and the queen, and they produce entire people. And then, of course, you have Isaac. Laughter, zachach, because Sarah laughs when she overhears the messenger of God telling Abraham that your wife's going to have a baby next year and she's going to be 99. Or no, she's going to be 90. She's like, are you nuts? But she didn't say, are you nuts? She laughed. And then the text tells us that God says, I'm going to, what makes you think this is impossible? And Abraham says, I didn't laugh. Instead of going, you know what, my wife's 90 years old. She's allowed to laugh. In other words, his first response was, protect myself. Which we see that over and over. Again, biblical narrative. What makes biblical narrative different than reading Oedipus, reading Homer's Iliad or something like that is we are dealing with human beings that we can relate to. If someone tells you something that is so outlandish, it's impossible, you're going to laugh. Or you're crazy. But then if someone else says, well, do you think I can't make it happen? Who are they going to cover? Who are they going to protect? All right, that's wordplay. Number 2, names, people, and places. I talked about that. Understatement and selective overstatement. All right. The text talked about going up on the mountain and Isaac asking Dad, where's the sacrifice? And he says, don't worry, God will provide. Okay? However, I want to give you a different one that's really simple. I just got to find it. Give me a second. I know where it is. Come on. Where are my two boys? All right, page 44. 44.
If there's an extra book over
So, with the exception of one, everybody in this room has had children. And your children, when they say something is wrong, they come to you and they tell you the whole story and nothing but the truth. Yeah, right. They tell you what they want you to hear. All right? So, page 44, verse 8. Vayomer Cain el Hevel. And Cain said to Hevel. Cain, hunter, Hevel, farmer, if you will, in that sense, Cain and Abel. All right? Achiv, his brother. Vayahargehu. And he killed him. He murdered him. All right. There's something missing here. Like, what happened? That's the understatement. Now, the understatement is we have no clue what happened. Midrash is going to fill in the blanks for us. It turns out, according to Midrash, that Cain and Abel were wrestling in the field, and Abel got on top of Cain and was threatening to kill him, and Cain says, you have to stop. Dad's going to know who did it. And Abel said, you're right. But that is, and Cain spoke to Abel. That's the speaking. And Cain gets off, Abel gets off of Cain, turns around, and Cain murders him. That's the second part of the sentence. They are filling in the understatement because there's nothing there. Right? They're so cute, I know. Alright? So that's the understatement. The other piece of that, of course, is the selective overstatement. Because what's the next line? The next line is God says to Cain, where is your brother? And in the Hebrew, sorry, I want to do the Hebrew properly. Vayomer Adonai el Cain, and God spoke to Cain. Chevel achicha, where is Abel your brother? Vayomer lo yadati, I don't know. Hashomer achi anochi, am I my brother's guardian, protector, or keeper, as we now say in our tradition? And so, again, where is he? What does Cain not know how to do? Bury somebody. Or what do you do when someone dies? No one died yet. So that's the overstatement is after the fact. So part of the narration is when you read this, you have to literally look at every single word. Now, I don't expect you to do that every day, nor do I do that every day. But when I want to study the text, or one of the fun parts about Saturday morning class is that, aside from the tangents, we do on lots of tangents, but aside from that, is that we do look at each word, we question it, we challenge it, and so forth. Not all the time, but we try to. Sometimes it's just a word, doesn't mean anything. Well, that's not our tradition, because even Rashi does not comment on every word. But the idea is sometimes what you see is not enough. Yes?
All right, so is this, written down rabbinic commentary that Cain didn't know how to bury a body?
So yeah, the Midrash is there, and so therefore what did he do? He watched, and a bird fell out of a tree dead. And another bird came over, took its beak, and started pecking at the soil, and pushed the dead bird into the soil spot, like a shallow grave.
So he did bury the body?
Yes, according to the Midrash. Did he? I wasn't there, I can't tell you.
But wouldn't he be hiding the body? That makes sense.
Well, again, it's hiding the body, but what's the line though? The line is, am I my brother's keeper? And then what does God say next? Your brother's blood cries from the earth.
Right, I buried him.
So they're
Right, now, what's blood? Dam. The Hebrew word for blood is dam. Going back to wordplay, was earth, adama, the core root of it. So the blood of my creation is crying out from the very earth in which I created.
But here's the other question, and I know we've talked about this over the years. It's a theoretical question. God shouldn't have to ask, where's your brother?
Right, but ultimately what the theoretical answer is, we're responsible for all of our brothers, regardless of God asking or not. So in other words, what have you, and I'm being very rhetorical, have done about the crisis in Puerto Rico? What have you done about the crisis in Rwanda? The question, and even our elected leaders, we give them a lot of pressure for that as leaders, that we feel they should be responsible for that. And God is asking us to do the same thing. That is a theoretical answer. Yes?
Well, I just was thinking, God may know about it, but he's pointing it out, that what he's done, basically, to him.
So,
And-
you know the classic poem about somebody walking on the beach and asking, where are you, God? And so I'm carrying you. That's why you only see one set of footprints. And I'm paraphrasing greatly, all right? Sometimes, just like the burning bush, it's always burning. But until we're able to see it, it doesn't mean anything. How many of us in our daily routine do the same thing every time that we don't even know, we're not even aware that we're doing it?
A lot.
Exactly. It's the same concept. Yeah. Oh, you just,
I'm sorry, I was answering.
all right, so the next piece. Non sequitur, anticipatory information, and resumptive repetition. It's called a disjointment of the text in itself. In other words, when the text starts with something and then jumps to something else, jumps to something else. So, in Parashat Shemini, I'm getting to it in Leviticus. Okay.
Around 8:22.
798, but I want to going before that.
Oh, look how close they were.
I have to make sure I'm in the right place. I'm doing this in my head sometimes. I thought I wrote the note here, but I didn't. Give me 1 second.
We're back to the burnt offering.
Got that. And I'm missing 792. I'm in the right place. It's just not too far.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Advice someone use books online. You know, all the different sources. So I cover all of them in information.
It's well for you to check.
Yeah.
I apologize. I thought I had it marked, but I didn't. For an offering.
Sometimes they use books. I knew it. There we go.
Here we go. Hey, 800. 800. All right. So Parshat Shemini is the portion that starts with right after Parshat Zav. So the very beginning of Leviticus, it's the first part is by Yikra, talks about the 5 sacrifices. Parshat Zav that follows talks about the 5 sacrifices again, but the special priestly role with it, which goes into Shemini. And right away in chapter 10, right before the dietary laws, we learn about Nadab and Abihu, who make a strange offering, and they are consumed by fire. And they're basically, so the fire came forth, consumed them, they died. Moses said to Aaron, this is what God means when God said, those near me I show myself holy, and they exert the authority of all the people, i.e. you have to do your job with full integrity and preparation. Okay? Now, Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, other sons, to take the dead bodies out. Right? And that's it. You don't hear a word. God spoke to Aaron saying, drink no wine or other intoxicant. So from that tradition, we believe that Nadab and Abihu were drunk. So far what we have here is you have a sequence of behaviors, but then it's going to stop. And it jumps. I'm going to show you the jump in a second. Anticipatory information is, they did something wrong. What did they do wrong? We're anticipating we're going to be told as soon as possible. We are. We're told that they drank. Okay? And then the third part of that statement is resumptive repetition. How's going to repeat itself? Well, here's the thing. That's it. That's it. Take the tons and have the rules. Now I'm going to jump to Acharei Mot on page 863. So we go from Shemini. We get to my favorite Torah portion, Tasriya Mitzorah, all the body parts that come off and all the discharges of your body. Great bar bat mitzvah portion with my daughters. Yes. But then we get to Acharei Mot, which again is a portion that's difficult for some people. Not the first part. Acharei Mot means after the death. So God spoke to Moses after the death of the sons of Aaron. Wait a minute, but where was the intermediate stuff? So this happens a lot, where something happened and then the ball is dropped, and then we resume it again later. There are 2 theories on this. Number one is that in the narration, I'm going to tell you of the horrific events of Nadab and Abihu, and I'm going to tell you while I'm talking about impurities, other impurities that you need to be careful about. And now I'm going to come back to the story. The other, of course, is we have 2 sources that somehow came together. You can play with either one. But here's the thing. God said to Moses, tell your brother Aaron he's not to come close by and all that stuff, giving all the rules here. And then Aaron... I'm looking for Aaron basically yelling at his brother. There comes a point in time when Aaron basically yells, excuse me, don't I get a chance to mourn for my sons? So we see a humanness of this disconnection. Okay? I just want to point out the type of narration we're looking at here. The next, of course, is redundancy and repetition. And God told Moses to tell the children of Israel to do this, and Moses then told the children of Israel to do this as God had commanded. We see that language constantly. Now, why? Again, two schools of thought. Number one is the obvious oral tradition. That in order to help remember and have a nice mnemonic method, is the way of just basically telling it over and over. The other is to make sure that every name that was important in their tradition did not get forgotten. Our favorite section in Torah study, and I'm being incredibly sarcastic, is when someone has to read a bunch of names. And they go, oh, I got the names this week.
Phil.
All right? Right, and that's the point. The point is because they're there for a reason. We may not know the reason anymore, but they're there. And that repetition, that redundancy, other piece of that, and that is the problem. We will get references to other sources in the Torah, like the book of Yeshar, like the Code of Law in Exodus, as it mentions. You have no idea what these are to this day. We know something existed, but we no longer know what it is. Okay? The next type of source for narration is ambiguity, of course, right? Is that it's purposely left for us to continue to ponder or question. So go back to the dietary laws for a second. The ambiguity would be, what type of birds were these? How do I know if I'm eating a proper bird or not? So later in Mishnah, now not Midrash, but Mishnah, oral law, we determine that the birds of prey are not for us to eat, so we watch them eat another animal when we can't eat that bird. That's why poultry is fine, meaning poultry that we know. And that's why when we have all of the challenges of modern farming, either with cow disease in mammals or with avian flu in birds and so forth, is that when we violate that very principle and feed cannibalism, if you will, to them, then it creates problems. And we know this.
Well, if you say that, then why are seagulls and ostriches included? Because I don't think they eat.
Well, seagulls will eat flesh.
Will
They will. Yeah, if they're hungry enough, they will.
How about ostriches?
I have no idea. I don't know the ostrich family very well. There used to be one with the ostriches or emus on here in 520. I know we have
Emus.
They keep putting their head in the
Yeah.
sand.
Yeah.
They keep putting their head in the
They're better than
sand.
saying, I don't, yeah, so again,
That's probably-
is it ostrich in the true word? Okay, well, I know I'll eat the eggs of ostriches. So, there is a pig in the Philippines that has a cloven hoof and chews its cud. So is that pig kosher? By definition, it is. It chews its cud and it has a cloven hoof. The prohibition of pigs is simply because it does not chew its cud. It has a cloven hoof but does not chew its cud. So it's been debated. I don't know
So
what
it's
the
a
final answer.
species.
I'm sorry?
It's not one, it's a species.
It's a species of pigs in the Philippines.
Interesting.
All right. So is it possible to have kosher pig? I don't know. But then this is where, again, you take text, narration, and now you get into law. What is one of the early forms of insulin and or heart valves for pigs? And that's the closest to the biological cellular structure for humans.
And if you've used that, you can't give blood next door.
Well, that's also because of all of the concerns related to antibodies and so forth, related to the animal kingdom. You're absolutely right. Doesn't mean it's harmful to you, it just means that we don't want to take that chance on somebody else. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Etiology, hidden casualty, and reciprocal justice. Lot and his daughters. All right. Go back to that text. Come on. Okay. Come on. Bird of Ishmael. Son of Gomorrah. Wait. Yeah, that. Son of Gomorrah. Come on. Okay. There we go. All right, page 132. 132. So Sodom and Gomorrah had happened, meaning the destruction because of the evil present there. Lot's wife, if you want to look on the previous page, is that God destroyed the plain, mindful of Abraham and Lot upheaval. Lot went up and settled away. Lot's wife looked back and thereupon turned into a pillar of salt. The etiology of that, if you look at that in the Hebrew in verse 26 on 131, is that by Yashchem, Abraham, Babocher, and Abraham, I went too far, hold on. Batabet Ishto, and his wife turned back, Me'acharav, behind her, Batahin Natzim Melach, and she became a pillar of salt, or she became a rock salt. If you go anywhere near the Dead Sea, seeing pillars of salt is very common. And there is one of them says, this is Lot's wife. No one, there's no body in there.
So it doesn't say she turned to look, it says she turned back.
She turned back.
Could it be that
Now you're getting midrash, but I know what the answer is.
she wanted to go back to Sodom and then she got burned and she's ash?
That could be, but why did she want to turn back? You know the
She's
answer.
evil.
She had 2 daughters there, remember? 2 came out and 2 stayed. 2 were with their husbands. She had 4 daughters. Okay? Again, we're getting now the narration of the humanness, right? A mother's fleeing and wants to get her entire family. Alright, so she's dead. Now it's Lot and his 2 remaining daughters. And he settled in the hill country. Now, anywhere in the Dead Sea, when you go up the mountainside, it's the Qumran caves, and that's the northern part, obviously. But it's all caves. It's hill country, okay? He was afraid to dwell in Zoar, and he and his daughters lived in a cave. Why is he afraid? I can't tell you. I have to go back and look at the Mishnah and the Midrash to it, all right? But for whatever reason, it was not safe. And here's
So,
what
Larry,
happens.
can I ask you,
Yeah.
so basically, when you're reading the Torah, you, as in a modern person,
Yeah, okay.
we read the Torah, but we have to have the Midrash next to us.
Not always.
Or,
But see, when you read
our own Midrash.
our own
from how
Midrash,
we-
but when we're reading the Torah now, you're going to get to where I get to the end today,
Right.
but it's how are we going to read it? The reality is we're going to read it based on the world in which we are comfortable in, the world we live in now.
Right.
But keeping in mind, we need to understand what it was created as.
And then how it was interpreted through the different eras
Correct.
of
And
where
the fact
it
that
needs
it's
to
still
be.
being interpreted.
Right.
Right? Michelle Bachman apparently became ordained pastor recently and spoke at the Faith, whatever conference that the president has been at this week, and basically said the whole country has to accept Jesus, or otherwise we're going to eternal damnation. I was like, thank you very much. But again, she is interpreting it another way.
Right.
My dear friend Reverend Armstrong is doing a revival at Second Baptist here on Friday night, October 27th. I will not be able to attend. I'll be in Texas. But the point is that there's a strong belief that we can look at the text and still speak to us. We need to revive ourselves in their theology.
Right.
But it still speaks. It still speaks. It
So everyone, so really even whether you're Jewish, you're Christian,
Everyone interprets. Now,
Right.
but where do we get in trouble?
okay,
Where it says my way is right and your way is wrong. That's where we get in trouble.
correct.
Okay?
Well, that's with any kind of law that's sometimes opaque or
Correct. But like for example, if you want to have some fun, go and take a look at the marriage laws in the state of New Jersey and open up Leviticus chapter 18 when you're doing it. It's verbatim.
Okay.
It's totally verbatim. So they had a source when they wrote it. Now, it's not completely verbatim anymore because now you cannot marry your mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter, regardless of your gender,
Right.
right? Not before either, and that's all Leviticus 18. And you cannot marry your grandmother, grandfather, granddaughter, grandson, niece, nephew, aunt, uncle. New Jersey, you can marry your first cousin. That's totally legal in New Jersey. So.
In Arkansas. No.
No, Arkansas, you can marry your first cousin, your second. I'm sorry. But yes, in the Bible, you cannot marry your father's wife, which is not your mother.
No, it's your stepmother.
In
Maybe.
New Jersey, you can, assuming your father's not married to your stepmother anymore. That's the catch, by the way.
It's kind of a Woody Allenish kind of thing.
A little more, less than that, but yes, you can marry you can marry your adopted child. You cannot marry your child, period. And we always adopted or not. A step parent you can marry.
He wasn't her legal parent, but
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, he's creepy.
There's a lot.
And that's the interpretation. Now,
Right.
anyway.
Right.
But
No,
yes,
I mean
yes.
it's very interesting how you think there's the Torah,
Right.
and there really is everyone.
So but then that's where we have a challenge, particularly as modern liberal Jews. I'm pretty confident that no one in this room, myself included, is looking at this text as absolute truth and that God sat down with Moses' hand and wrote it.
Right.
We believe it was humanly created, perhaps with divine influence or inspiration, whatever you want to call it. I believe it is a narration of our story as we understood it from the beginning of time. When we finish this step, I'm going to go back, not so much to the diagram they did, but I'm going to go more of an easier stroke, the creation story and why it exists the way it does, and another way of looking at it. Okay? But with that being said, I'm able to do that, but still in the back of my head, I'm still in 2017. I still have my Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Chemistry. In other words, we all bring a luxury of luggage to take the pieces apart. But we have to do it with the understanding that we need to stay in the boundaries of what it was created and what they were trying to do, and how we can stay within those boundaries, whatever that means, for today's world. So something really simple. The conservative movement right now is struggling on the whole issue, not just intermarriage, on second day of holy days and festivals. We follow the calendar as it says in the Torah, and likewise in Israel, with the exception of the second day of Rosh Hashanah, meaning we don't add extra days, because we're pretty sure about the calendar. We can see it, and we know it now. So there's no 2 days of Yom Kippur. No one ever did that. But they do 2 days of Rosh Hashanah to make sure the new year began on the proper time, then you just count. So if that's the case, I don't know why you keep adding extra days. So Sukkot is a 7-day holiday, but it's really 8, because the 8th day is Shemini Atzeret Simchat Torah. Reform movement modified it so that the 7th day, that morning, can be Yizkor, or that night with Simchat Torah, Shemini Atzeret, and the 8th day, that night is over. But they add an extra day. So for the more traditional community, last Thursday, not 3 days ago, but last Thursday, when it was the first day of Sukkot, they were in Holy Day Festival from Wednesday night to Saturday night. Because it's 2 days, the first 2 days of Sukkot, going right into Shabbat. Same thing happened this week. Wednesday night was 7th day of going into 8th day of Sukkot, meaning Shemini, but 8th day. That night was Shemini Atzeret, going into the 9th day, which was Friday, was Simchat Torah, then Shabbat. So, the holiday never ends. Passover, 7 days. When Passover, like this year, again, begins on a Friday night, which is the case, the following Friday night, we're done. But we'll have 2 onegs. Why? Because there are some of our congregants who, because it's in their blood. My mama always had 8 days, I will have 8 days. Fine, I don't really care. So that's why we'll have 2 onegs. We won't, but we will make sure we have a non-Pesach oneg, because as a Reformed congregation, we're done.
So what's the issue in the conservative movement with the second day?
Colleagues are getting frustrated being professional Jews versus Jewish professionals. In other words, they are the only Jew, and there are less and less attendance or people observing and so forth. Now, Beth Am, I noticed, had a nice turnout for Simchat Torah on Friday. So,
see, the calendar is still very misleading. We went to a funeral, a Jewish funeral, on what I would call the second day of Sukkot.
that's okay. But for us, it's not a second day, it's a regular day. It's called Moed.
I understand that, but it just sits.
Oh, see, I'll do a funeral on the second day.
So did this other person.
Yeah, because it's not a holy day for us, and we're not closed.
Right.
So we're going to be consistent. We need to be consistent.
And the cemetery will bury?
Of course they will.
Okay.
Of course they will. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a funeral on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. After I was done with Tashlik at the park,
Right.
I went to Staten Island and buried a 106-year-old woman. Because halakhically, there was nothing stopping me doing that funeral. There was nothing. Yeah.
Larry, isn't it true a bris is the 8th day no matter what?
Bris no matter what. So the 8th day is Yom Kippur.
Right.
What happens is you do the bris close to breakfast. Because part of the bris is to celebrate, and you have to celebrate by eating. That's why that's done. I have some colleagues who were very fortunate, however you want to look at it. 9/11 and the 10th day, the 8th day, forgive me, was Rosh Hashanah, and they did the naming on the bima, so affirm life after 9/11. So the answer is, we have, now you made an excellent observation, we have to distinguish between what Jewish law says and what our Kishka says. And that's the truth. Because sometimes what fits well in us may not jive the other way around. I totally understand.
Quick anecdote. So I have a very good friend who does not belong to a synagogue, does not go to shul.
But they're a good friend.
Oh, very good.
I'm teasing.
But she makes a holiday meal for both nights of Rosh Hashanah and both nights of Pesach.
Yeah, so, and then again, the
And works
Passover.
her butt off.
Right, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
Somebody posted somewhere, I don't remember where it was, the holiday is to gather as a community, it's not the festive meal. And that's one of the things we struggle with. Rosh Hashanah night has become that in our area. Let's not kid ourselves. Rosh Hashanah evening is our least attended service. The rest of the season was well attended. We were actually very pleasantly surprised Rosh Hashanah morning. And the rest of Yizkor was insane.
Growing up, we always had family dinner on Erev Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even think the men went to shul.
Right, no, again,
My family
different customs, different
sure
areas, and I understand that. So, we're not going to cancel services, but it just makes us think about how we handle certain things.
Well, it's just funny saying that because my family never went to temple. But my family, none of their relatives lived near us. My non-religious father would not get in the car. My mother went to go to New Jersey to see her sisters on Rosh Hashanah. But even though he didn't go to temple, we did not drive on the Jewish house, so we were alone,
Yeah.
the three of us.
Yeah,
So,
they got very
did
different
you say
experience.
insane?
So looking back to Lot and his daughters, because we're talking about ideology, hidden casualty and reciprocal justice. So Lot and his daughters, they live in a cave. The older one said to the younger, meaning older daughter to younger daughter, our father is old, and there's not a man on earth to consort with us in the way of the world. So they are under the impression that all the men of the world died in Sodom and Gomorrah, because that's the only world they knew. So what do? They get their father drunk. Come, let us make our father drink wine. Let us lie with him that we may maintain life through our father. Yes, good old-fashioned incest, right here in the Bible. The Holy Book, the good book. Okay? Now, you notice there's no prohibition here yet, because it hasn't happened. The prohibition is Leviticus. But now I'm dealing with the issue of etiology, hidden casualties. So, who are their children going to be? The older one, now looking down in verse 37, has a son named Moab. And the younger one's going to have a son named Ben-Ami, the father of Ammonites. So we have the Moabite and the Ammonite. The very two people, later on, that we're going to have issues with in Deuteronomy. In other words, the narrative, constantly will have the progenitor of somebody, the etiology of how they came to be. Excuse me. So, Moabite comes from my father, Me'av. The play, again, we're going back to wordplay. And the Ben-Ami, son of my paternal, my father. In other words, both of the names of their children are related to their father in this situation. And wait, what do they have to do to him? Get him drunk. What happened to Noah after the flood? He got drunk. What's going to happen with Judah when he sleeps with his daughter-in-law Tamar? He gets drunk. And the two, so we get a drinking issue going on. I mean, you can have a drinking game in the Torah now,
But
right?
there's an additional parallel with Noah that does the son lie with him or just uncover his nakedness?
So again, now we're playing with the wordplay. In Noah, Canaan, not Canaan, I'm sorry, that's the progenitor of Canaan. 3 sons, Ham, Japhet, and Shem. Shem is the good one. He's going to be the progenitor next 10 generations. Going to get Terah, who gets Abraham. And then we have Ham and Japhet. Ham is the progenitor of the Canaanites. Ham uncovers his father's nakedness. Now, in the literal sense, woo! Right? Or he opened the tent and Dad's laying there naked and drunk. And Ham goes, Japhet, come see this! And Japhet comes over and goes, woo!
TMI.
And right. And Shem, they go, Shem, he's like, no! And he goes in, covers it. That's the literal reading. The interpretive reading, uncover one's nakedness, means to have sexual intercourse. So did his son rape his father in his state of drunkenness? And there's a great discourse of biblical scholarship on this. Not my thing, but all right.
That's not a case where there were no other people available.
No, there are no other people available. What do you mean no? Well, the wives, right. But apparently after spending 40 days and nights with them on the boat, it was too much, so it's like more than 40 days, but who knows? Who knows? But again, this stuff is in the Bible, so that's why I love when people go, according to the good book, and say, hold on. There's some very interesting things in this book. You sure about that? All right. So that is what we call the reciprocal justice that goes on later. Symmetry, meaning the similarity. I just alluded to a couple of them. The drunken stories, the classic wife-sister stories. She's my wife, she's my sister. Abraham does that with Sarah a lot. Isaac does it with Rebecca once. We see this throughout. And I think also for 2 reasons. One is our narration. The classic matriarchal barrenness story. All of our matriarchs have trouble conceiving. Now, eventually they conceive, we have great progenition afterwards. All of our firstborns get it all right, but they don't get the inheritance. It's always the meaning below them that get the leadership. It's not till Deuteronomy that the consistency of firstborn getting the leadership. Right? Non-repetition. Aaron and the golden calf, Exodus chapter 32. Okay. So the golden calf story is Moses comes down and says to Aaron, he took the calf and blew it. I'm sorry, I'm on page 648. Moses said to Aaron, what did this people do to you that you have brought such great sin upon them? In other words, why did you allow this to happen? Now I'm going to go to the Hebrew for a second. Vayomer Aharon El Yachar, and Aaron said, Yachar Af Adonai, said, do not be upset with me, my Lord. Now, He's not my Lord, but my leader, I guess my leader is the best way to do it. El Yachar, Ab Adonai, my Lord. Ataya data etam. You know these people, Kibarahu, they are, in the English it's bent on evil. They are just simply evil. They're on the wrong way. Okay? Vayomruli, and they said to me, Aselanu, make for us Elohim Asher, a God, and the phrase here is Elohim, a God, Asher Yachol Lefanav, that will go before us. In other words, we can't see Moses, we can't see whoever Moses is talking to, make us this. Okay? So that first part is right there. But then, whoever is for the Lord comes, in other words, I had nothing to do with this, but then I'm giving you the detail of what I did. Like something's not connected. That is common and is a wordplay on trying to get us, the reader, to see God's presence in the story. That is our belief system. God is behind everything. So now, this is also fascinating, because what happened right before this is Moses on the mountain. God sees what's going on, and hurry down, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt have acted badly. This happened before he goes down. Moses already knows what happened. And yet, we got to ask this whole Makakta story. And he goes, well, I said, just bring me your earrings and your whatever, and I threw it in the fire, and lo and behold, a golden calf came out. Like, right, Aaron, great story. Now, what really happened? But that's what the text tells us. Okay? But then, God says to Moses, I see this is a stiff-necked people. Go, Jews. Now let me be, that my anger may blaze forth against them, and I may destroy them and make you a great nation. Going back to symmetry. God's not happy with the people of the land, so God's going to flood the earth and let Noah and his sons. God's not happy with the people in Sodom and Gomorrah, he's going to destroy it. God's not happy with the people now in the wilderness, but this time, like Abraham with Sodom and Gomorrah, Moses implored God, saying, let not your anger blaze forth. And we have that famous text that we read at every holy day and festival, which says that you are forgiving and quick to understand and so forth. Okay? So that's the piece there of what we call the non-repetition, that it was one to move on. It's like, wait, something's not adding up here. And finally, type scenes and typology. I already gave you that. The barren maternal mothers, the firstborn, the ark, and so forth. All right. So now let's take a look at this week's Torah portion that we just finished, Bereshit. I'm going to take you through it, and I'll show you an example of narration working at its best. So, page 18. Actually, that's why I know this book. It starts on page 18.
Larry, did they start on 18 on purpose in this book?
I'm pretty sure. You can go out if you want, though. All right.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah. So the very beginning, every rabbinic student memorizes, usually the third week of rabbinical school. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Great line. What did the text really say? Bereshit, at first. Because the word, if the root is rosh, resh, aleph, shin. Not ba-rosh, or bara, which is creation. So what is the word there? So already from the very beginning, we're struggling with the very first word. Because the word ba means in, or at. So ba-re, rosh. But that's not usually how people understand it. They go at creation, bara, which means to create, sheet. Well, the sheet doesn't really work. Which is why we say at first. Because when you say a number, and you want to say the first number, you say reshit, rishon. And so it begs the question. So right now, we're already struggling with the first word. What's the narration telling us?
Well, you have two words with the same root, so that must mean something.
You don't have two words with the same root. Bara is bet resh aleph, rosh is resh aleph shin.
Oh, okay, the bet is just a preposition.
Well, that, again, classic Hebrew, the bet has to be the preposition here. It can't be the root. If it is the root, then where's the sheet coming from?
In the Torah, is the bet enlarged?
In the actual document, yes, it is. Okay, showing in the beginning, because now the text doesn't tell you. Kabbalat tells you. Because before the bet, there's nothing. It's only from there to the beginning, because it's a solid wall. There's nothing behind it. It comes here onward, which is why it's written the way it's written. So, Bereshit bara. So we have the same word, repetition already. We already have bara and bara. So at first, Bereshit bara Elohim, Elohim. So already now I'm looking at this from the narration that I'm talking about Elohim, who created at first. What did Elohim create? Et, direct modifier, has no translation in English. Et hashamayim et haaretz, the heavens and the earth. There and there. All it says.
Elohim, that's the gods.
Right.
The gods.
Right.
Not necessarily our
So,
gods.
right, we have the moon god, the water. I mean, who knows, right? Right. But again, looking at it from a modern mind, though, all right, I know about this guy named Carl Sagan who talks about they and the big, right? So I don't need to worry about that yet. All I know is at the beginning, at first, God created the heavens and the earth. In other words, for our narration, it begins with God starting at zero, building what will become the foundation of what we can exist on. Otherwise, we're just floating.
In the English translation, interpretation for number 1, why does it say when God began instead of in the beginning, as we generally use?
Okay, so now, I'm going to back up for a second. The translation you're looking at is Jewish Publication Society, JPS. The original was 1922, the modified, I think, 1980. There has been 2 other modifications since then. They're both in my office, unfortunately. Actually, hold on, this one's probably more up to date. Let me look. This was the revised version of your book, which only became in Hebrew style. And instead of dividing up the portions the way they are now, they're divided up by portion as a whole, which is what the new women's commentary followed as well. And so I'm curious how they did it in the beginning here. I don't remember. And they said, yeah, go ahead and listen. When, oh, here it says when also. I have to look at the Fox translation. There's so many. Here's the thing, as it said in your text. When you're looking at translation, of course, is another form of interpretation. And so, when, at, they're all prepositions, so either one works, yes.
When they came out recently with the photos from the universe, where they found that there were millions of other
galaxies and so forth,
galaxies, etc. Some of them much older than ours, some of them newer. And how can we relate this to this here? When
Okay, so now you're going 5 steps ahead, right? You're trying to see, did the creators of this text have some divine knowledge of that? I doubt it. I just don't know. So now that's the first question. The second question is, can I reconcile my knowledge of the world as I know it now with what it says there? I'm going to give you the first day to help you out with that. Give me 1 second. Yes, sir.
When we used to teach Bible stories in the younger grades,
Right.
we gave the kids a sequence on this day, that day, everything happened.
Right.
And down here it says, our translation follows Rashi, who said that the text would have written Rosh Hashanah if...
Wait, Rosh Hashanah? Oh, I'm probably looking at the wrong thing here.
All the way on the bottom.
Barishana. Yeah.
Its primary purpose has been to teach the order in which creation took place.
In other words, in the beginning, from nothing.
Right.
In other words, in the beginning, God from nothing. In other words, the implied is from nothing. That's all there's pointing out there. Yeah, Barishana. Rishon means at first.
Right.
Okay, that's what it means. So just stick with the first day. I'm going to go with one piece of science in a second. V'ha'aretz, the land, hayata tohu vavohu. The land was, we usually translate it null and void. It was empty without form. Tohu vavohu, empty without form. V'choshek al panei tahom, and darkness covered its surface. Okay? So already we have a problem. Covered its surface. What surface is there? Which implies there's something there.
Well, et hashamayim et haaretz, so there's...
But that was a generic statement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. And the show will consist of, in other words, I'm giving you the overall, but again...
Okay, so that's really not day 1, that's just like an overview.
It's an overview. Well, we're going to get to day 1, right? And so, Al Panei Tahom Baruch Elohim, and the spirit, the wind, the gas, and there's a reason why we're using gas, Elohim. We're not talking about God having flatulence, so please don't go there, 7th graders. But the wind and spirit of God, Merachefet Al Panei Hamayim, hovered, floated, whatever, over the waters. So we have a surface and we have waters. So again, what is this? Now, my science, primordial soup.
Right.
Whatever that is, right? I always have that classic Far Side cartoon in my head with God sitting over a cauldron going, in the beginning. All right? Gary Larson was my favorite cartoonist by far. Far Side? I don't know. Let's go on a little bit more.
Larry.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah.
No, the primordial, the way,
Yeah, please, yeah.
the way I taught it, the primordial soup was all of the energy and all of the matter that would ever exist
Right.
in that.
Whatever that is. But again,
primordial atom.
is it, right, but is it, from a theological perspective, is God going like this? Or the classic Greek presentation of Atlas, holding the world up? Here's my problem, not my problem, my challenge. The primordial soup doesn't bother me, I'm totally cool with it. But when you're teaching children, and even adults, we have to realize most of us can't see atoms. Well, actually we can't, unless we have a microscope and all that fun stuff, right? And so sometimes imagining what that means is a very hard concept to grasp. But now we're going to go from primordial to science. Because what the first thing that happened? Vayomer Elohim, and God said, Yehi or, let there be light, Vayehi or, and there was light.
Explosion.
What was it? An explosion, right. What cannot it be?
What?
What can it not be?
The sun.
The sun. Why? That's fourth day. At least according to this. So now, I can tell you with almost 100% certainty, I'll say 99.9 to be honest, that our ancestors had no clue about the Big Bang Theory. But yet, wow, the fact that that concept can be here. And then what was it? Very simple. We're going to call the Vayar Elohim et Haor, and God saw that the light Kitov is good. Light is good. I'm glad God's happy. And then Vayavdel Elohim ben Haor, and God separated between the or, the light, uvein hachoshech, between the darkness. So we have darkness. Darkness is the first thing we have. Over the surface, it's dark. And now we have light. So we have light and we have darkness. And then Vayikra Elohim, and God calls Laor Yom. We're going to call the light day. Has a name. So, hello, Mr. Light. No. Hello, Mr. Day. Your name is Day. You're light and your name is Day. And because of that, we're going to give you an opposite. And Vachoshech hara Laila. And God's going to call the darkness light. Vahi erev, vahi boker yom echad. So, light is good. We have light going to call day, darkness going to be called night. And God said, Vahi erev, vahi yom. And there was evening, so darkness is first. And then there's morning, babocher. And yom echad. You notice what it does not say. It does not say first day. It can't. Because you don't know there's a second day yet. So it has to be day one. So far you saw in simple narration, you saw how, the main character is Elohim. Character is doing two major acts. Choshech, which already exists, and creates or. God does not create darkness. Darkness is there. God creates light. Now, only because of the time, and I need to be able to dismiss school. We get the waters. Day 3, you get the land and vegetation. Day 4, you get the lights in the expanse of the sky. That's your sun, moon, and stars. Time, as we know it now, cannot exist until the 4th day. Because how do we tell time? We use the luminaries. So, therefore, the first 3 days could be billions of years without any problem. Again, reconciling science.
Cosmos.
Okay.
The show Cosmos.
Oh, yeah, great show. What's the guy, the scientist, the African American scientist?
Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah, he's great.
He did the redo.
Yeah.
He went to Bronx Science.
I'm sorry?
He went to the Bronx High School of Science.
Oh, really?
He's a city kid.
He's very good. Anyway, so 4th day, the luminaries. And then the 5th day, we have waters bring forth the creeping, crawling things. Can that be your dinosaurs? Dinosaurs is one of the things that doesn't really reconcile with the creation story very well. But you need to know that we are closer in time to the actual building of the pyramids than the pyramids are to the time of the dinosaurs. Okay? And even though the story is that we built these lovely pyramids in that story called the Exodus, probably not totally true, but okay. Because the pyramids are older than our story. Okay?
So that's another inconsistency.
It's inconsistency to historical accuracy. Okay?
Well, the Torah never said we built the pyramids, we built stuff.
Right, exactly. But the presumption is, see, here's the problem. Most of us were tainted by our doctors and dentists. Because when you went to the doctor and dentist, you had in the waiting room, you had the Children's Illustrated Bible. and you open up, it has a big apple.
Our book.
And it has us, working on the pyramid. I mean, because,
Doctor's
children.
office? I guess I went to Jewish doctors, so we didn't have.
I don't know. We had them. We had them.
Queens. We had highlights.
So anyway, I want to wrap it up. So the point is each day is a building block. And we're going to get to the end of the 7 days, and then the building block goes backwards. Because then we have the second story of creation. And that story, so you saw Elohim, Elohim, Elohim. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong section here. Give me a second. And then second creation story, jump ahead to page 29. Ele toledot hashamayim v'haaretz v'hi ba'am v'yom asot Adonai Elohim. You have Adonai now in this story. Adonai does not exist until now. So now the narration has to ask, wait a minute, where did this other God name come in? So what they were trying to do, I know in a very complicated way in the Holtz book, is showing you how the story starts, and then the symmetry is going to go this way, but every piece of narrative tool is in even this very simple story of creation. What I challenge you to do is, and as we continue going forward, when we look at text, ask the question, not just ask the literal question, what does light and darkness mean and all that stuff, but then go, why is that there? Why is this part of our story? Why do we need to know this? The classic, of course, is where do rainbows come from? Well, there's a story about Noah and the flood, Or where do languages come from? Well, there's the story of the Tower of Babel. The first 11 chapters of Genesis, for the most part, give us explanation of what we already know. Meaning rainbows, languages, and that kind of stuff. Once you start with chapter 12 of Genesis, it's now the story of Abraham and his descendants. Verse 11 is all creation. Yes?
So page 52 on the handout structure, that's what you're describing.
Right, I just did it in a more simplistic manner versus what they were doing there. Right? All right. For those who do not have the text, I do have the handout for next time on Jewish law.
Next
biblical
time
law.
is caring breakfast is the same day.
On the 19th? Right. I'll figure out what I can do. I'll figure out something.
What chapters, Larry?
Biblical law, B.
Okay.
Section 1. Who else needs a handout? You do? You guys need a handout?
I don't need two of these.
Right, I'll give you 2.
Yeah, it is,
That's fine.
Karen. It's
You take your own.
chapter B.
Okay, thank
Page
you.
Anyone else? You guys need-
63. No, this
The other
is
one,
here.
yeah, biblical
You have
law.
it. Oh, you don't have it. Stop.
Anyone for each of you?
No, he has the
Oh, you have
book.
the book? Okay.
I had one person answer me that they
All
wanted
right,
to know.
anyone else?
I don't want to give it.
All right, folks, have a great week. Next weekend, Renaissance and Brotherhood are co-hosting a breakfast with Rabbi David Levy of American Jewish Committee talking about anti-Semitism.